Alright, so if you've been online in the past week, you've definitely heard of various allegations that are pretty serious being thrown around. First, it was Wilbur Soot with the biting allegations that I actually made a short about, and now in a similar vein, GeorgeNotFound has gotten into some hot water himself. But unlike Wilbur, George actually put together a well thought out response that I think cleverly explains his innocence while being respectful to the accuser. Now, let me give you a brief taste of what went down. Caitibugzz went on stream the other day to accuse GeorgeNotFound of assault. Now, with such a serious claim, you need to make damn sure you recall every detail exactly as it happened, right? You can't over-embellish, you can't make up details, you can't be ambiguous, and you can't miss anything either. Unfortunately, she did every one of those things. Throughout this video, I'm going to be comparing George's response with her statements to give a fair chance to both sides. Let's get into it.
Hi chat, I wanted to talk to you guys about something today. I apologize. Because it'll probably be a bit hard. Funny enough, I wrote it down. I wrote down what I want to say on stream today. I hope that's okay.
Keep in mind what she's saying here. It's important to remember later that she's basically saying that there is no reason for her to miss details because she has it directly typed out on her phone.
Last year, at the beginning of summer, I was assaulted by a significantly older and popular content creator. I was freshly 18 and had just graduated high school a few weeks prior.
This isn't true. If you assume she graduated in May, you could conclude that a few weeks later would likely be well into June. According to famous birthdays, she was born on January 3rd. She was by no means freshly 18. She was actually closer to 18 and a half.
I was drunk in a hotel room with other people around me when it happened.
Wait, so you think 18 is too young to consent with older guys, and yet you believed you were mature enough to be drinking? How does that even make any sense?
He was someone I had once watched, and he was 8 years older than me, and far more powerful. The full story is quite short. It was at a convention in a hotel room.
Okay, so this is my side of the story of the 2 times that I ever interacted with Caitibugzz in real life. So the first time that I met her, it was in Dream's hotel room at VidCon.
It was my first convention I was invited to, so I stuck by one of my best friends the entire time.
To give context about Dream's hotel room, essentially there was a living room, there was a table, and the bedroom was kind of separated from it. And for this reason, we used his hotel room essentially as a place where all of our friends could hang out in. But Dream actually didn't want to hang out with them. He even suggested that they shouldn't come because he was assuming that they were having more fun where they were. They reassured him that that wasn't the case. They were bored and they wanted him to come. So now these 5 people are trying to come to the hotel, but the problem with that is to get into the hotel, you need to have a VidCon creator badge. And only 2 of the people in the group chat actually had this badge. That was Katie and her best friend. So eventually what happened is Katie and 2 of her other friends came to Dream's hotel room. This was my first time actually meeting them in real life. I didn't even know who they were before meeting them. And then we essentially just were playing drinking games in the hotel room. We were just having fun, talking with each other.
When we got to the hotel room, it was the creator, the girl was talking to, and his best friend. The 2 of them and the 3 of us.
It's important to note that she leaves out a crucial detail, being that she had brought along 2 friends instead of 1. I find it odd that she would ignore mentioning one of 2 friends she brought along.
Not much happened that first night, just some drinking and talking at a table. The guy's friend had been passing flirts at me the entire night, but because he was the oldest in the room, we assumed he didn't know my age.
You're over 18. In fact, you were closer to 19 than 18. Why would your age matter? If you think you're mature enough to drink, then you're definitely old enough to consent to sex with somebody, no matter how much older than you they are. Either way, legally speaking, you were of age to consent and not of age to drink, so you basically have no argument.
Now, one thing Katie said retrospectively, looking back at the scenario, is that I was flirting with her throughout the night and that she was uncomfortable with this because of our age difference. At the time, she was 18 and I was 26. She actually assumed I didn't know her age because she had never said it. But then later, I had actually DM'd her on Instagram. And because of this, she says that it is confirmed that I know her age. To give some context to this scenario and to why I didn't know her age, my perspective of things is that I am with people that are over the age of 21 in a scenario where we are doing things that people that are over the age of 21 are doing, like drinking. And also since Katie's stream, I've gone back and reviewed texts from the time, and there was actually a picture where it was shown that they had this 21 plus wristband on one of their wrists. So from my perspective, it's a bunch of 21 plus year olds hanging out. I have no reason to think otherwise, other than her Instagram bio, but I just didn't see it.
Later that night, when I left, I received Instagram DMs from him, and in my Instagram bio, in bold, was my age, 18, confirming he knew how old I was.
Bruh. And actually at this point, I actually had a friend that I had only known online. I had told him I was going to VidCon, and he actually just happened to be in California at the same date, so the dates aligned, and we made plans to meet up. Now, he arrived early evening, I think it was around 5-6 p.m. Dream messaged me, "I'm bored, can you come to my room, let's hang out," essentially. That's what we did. Me and my friend that I just met, physically, I mean I knew him online, went up to Dream's room, and we were hanging out. And again, the same scenario happens from the night before. They are trying to get him to go out to another party that they were at, and same story, Dream didn't want to go, but was open to them coming here. And again, that is what happened. But this time, their friends were actually all able to get in. I don't know how they did it, but Katie, her best friend, and 3 other of her friends ended up coming to the room, which had me, Dream, and my online friend that I just met.
A few days passed when I found myself in the same situation. Us 3 were at a party when it got boring, and whether the girl wanted to leave and go to his room, or he asked us to, I cannot remember. Once again, I was drunker than the night before and was willing to go anywhere. I was naive, and so we went back. I remember a friend seeing me in the lobby on the way. They were worried by the way I was acting and asked if I was okay. I was really drunk, and it was an eerie feeling, like they could sense something was wrong, and I wonder what would have happened if I had picked up on it, and if I wasn't drunk, and if I didn't wave it off. But I don't want to dwell on the what-ifs.
So, a concerned friend checks up on you when you were drunk, and then you claim to have an eerie feeling with basically no reasoning behind it. Honestly, this whole thing sounds like fucking poetry. It's completely inappropriate. If she stuck to the facts and wasn't trying to emotionally manipulate the listeners, maybe I would have a little bit more sympathy. But the whole time, she's just crying crocodile tears and telling an incomplete story.
So 8 people total in this room at this point. This night was very similar to the one before. We were just hanging out, playing games, drinking, and just having a good time.
That night, I went up to his room. Back at the hotel room again were the 2 friends and us 3 girls.
Remember what George said before? He said there were 8 people in total. She said 2 plus 3, which is 5. So somebody is not telling the truth here. Wonder who that could be.
At the time, all of us girls were already really drunk from the party we were coming from, stumbling and everything. There was more alcohol in the room, and we were encouraged to drink some more as they offered the bottles to us. They said they would join us in drinking, and insisted on drinking games, and, already drunk, I obviously complied.
So something I actually want to point out before I continue with the rest of the story is the way that she phrases some things in her story. Instead of saying that her and the rest of her friends actually wanted to come to the hotel to hang out with us, she said that one friend was invited by Dream, but she didn't want to go alone. So then, they decided to go along with her because they were willing to go anywhere. I just think it's important to note already that the story is slightly different from the reality of it, and I'll be mentioning this a few more times throughout the rest of the story. You can see in these screenshots from the text at the time that they were all trying to come to the hotel, and it wasn't just oh, we're willing to follow her, essentially. They were all in the group chat and part of the discussion to go to the hotel. I also chose to mention my online friend. It doesn't really add to the story, but she never mentioned him or the 8th person that she brought with. So I'm just saying it because that's how it happened, and I want to make sure the story is straight. Another thing that she talks about is how we insisted that she drinks more and that we insisted on playing drinking games when this isn't the case. Again, they had already been drinking at this party before they arrived to the hotel room, and they had also been the ones that were asking to play the drinking games. So instead of us insisting that we play it, they were actually the ones that were asking us. and you can see that in the screenshots here. They had actually texted multiple times, specifically wanting to play this drinking game that we had played the night before.
And insisted on drinking games, and, already drunk, I obviously complied.
Bruh.
We sat on the couch and answered questions about each other, drinking a bunch, and the older guy sat right next to me while playing.
And at this point, I was pretty drunk, and so was basically everyone in this room. So at this point, we then moved to the couch. There was a couch in the room, and I sit next to Katie. She also says, looking back on the scenario, that she confused her nerves for excitement when I sit next to her. But again, at this moment in time, everything was friendly. Nothing sexual had happened. I'm just literally sitting next to her on the couch. And during this, she was laughing, smiling. She gave no indication that she was uncomfortable with me sitting this close to her. She also mentions that she was thinking about my age and that I was a lot older than her. Again, she was 18 and I was 26 at the time. And again, to clarify, I actually didn't know how old she was, despite her claiming that I did, just because it was in her bio.
I confused my nerves for excitement, as I had never been around such a big creator before. I remember getting drunker and drunker and really tired around this time. It was about 3 a.m. It was a little after that when I had resorted to playing games on my phone when it happened.
Next she says, this is a quote, resorted to playing games on her phone to avoid the awkward situation. Now, I just don't see how this is the case. She's implying that she is using her phone to essentially escape, in such an awkward scenario that she's in, but that's just not how it happened, and this is why. She brought up the phone game as kind of a point. The game was honestly the central point of the interaction at this part of the night. It was a very social thing, she was passing the phone around, we were all playing the game and bantering about it, just having fun with the game. So I don't see how she resorted to it and was using it in that context.
So, in truth, she was passing her phone around to play games with the whole party. That is completely different from using it as an escape because she was uncomfortable. Blatantly lying like this discredits pretty much anything else she has to say, but let's hear her out some more.
Out of nowhere, I felt him slip his hand under my clothes, sitting next to me on the couch in front of everyone. He disguised it with a simple, "Are you ticklish?" I coughed out a no, still staring at my phone.
She wasn't being awkward at all. There was no sense of uncomfortability from her. She was laughing and playing with everyone. And yeah, I'm not really sure why she phrased it like this. We actually continued to send each other high score updates even weeks after the event. To add further context to this moment, we were all actually sitting on the couch that was in the hotel room playing this game on her phone. And during this, me and Katie were at the far end of the couch and we were cuddling together. We had been cuddling for, I'd say, around an hour at this point, playing the game, talking, and just having fun. And for clarity, I had my hand around her waist above her clothes. So with her statement where she's saying that she's resorting to playing games on her phone, I just don't really understand it. And I think that the picture that she's painting is really dark, when in reality she seemed very happy with the situation, was having a good time. So then this is when her most important claim happens. I'm just going to read the quote. She says, "Out of nowhere, I felt him slip his hand under my clothes, sitting next to me on the couch in front of everyone. He disguised it with a simple, 'Are you ticklish?' I coughed out a no and still staring at my phone. I was overly aware of the fact that we were in front of other people. The fact that everyone else was sitting around us, watching us, including my best friend, and that his hand was inching further to places I hadn't asked it to be." Again, as I mentioned before, we had previously been cuddling on this couch for around an hour, but I did place my hand on her waist under her shirt. The way it's phrased makes it sound like it just happened out of nowhere, when in reality we had been cuddling for over an hour at this point, and it was not out of nowhere. It was also around half an hour until I started moving my hand further up, and the way it's phrased just makes it seem like it happened pretty instantly and pretty quickly.
I didn't speak or move. I remember being afraid to even breathe. I stayed there for a while, hoping my stillness could make me disappear.
She was not moving. She was not speaking. Of course, I don't believe that silence is consent. I just want to make sure that it is abundantly clear. She was visibly and physically responding well to everything that we were doing. I also want to comment on how she said that she had to stand up after many minutes for it to stop. She did get up multiple times throughout the night. For example, to go to the bathroom, to get a drink. Also, when her friends left, she got up to say goodbye to them, and she would come back to the same scenario.
I eventually had to stand up after many minutes for it to stop. I was scared to leave or make a scene out of the embarrassment. Eventually, later in the night, I found myself alone with him and his friends. Everyone else either passed out or sick. I dread the scenarios that could have played out that night, the what ifs. I was just so naive, and lucky or not, the night came to an end with just that.
You know, it would be one thing if she said that George made her uncomfortable and left it at that. But instead, she takes it to the next level and pretty much accuses him of being a potential rapist, which is disgusting. I'm not even kidding when I say that she should get jail time for even suggesting he might have harmed her with zero evidence to that fact. Of course, there's going to be out there who will be like, wow, that's so brave of you, I'm so proud, without looking into the context whatsoever. But frankly, accusing a guy of being a potential rapist after he put his hand on your waist during a cuddling session, that is one of the most ridiculous things you could say. And it's so gross that she actually thinks she's a victim. She even compares herself to Shovel, an actual victim, towards the beginning of the video.
I want to start this by saying I wouldn't be here without Shelby.
It's just absolutely disgusting.
There was nothing quick about it. It was very slow, and I was very cautious about it and making sure that she was comfortable throughout the process. Me and Katie were very touchy, very cuddly, and very slowly got more intimate. I've always been overly cautious with consent, and this is not just because I'm a creator. I've been like this since before I was a creator, and I think that's just the way I am and just the way it should be. Nothing came out of nowhere. Everything progressed very slowly throughout the night. And also, before I continue, I want to make it clear that the furthest anything ever got was under the shirt touching and cuddling. Now, obviously, people don't typically ask if everything is okay, even such as touching someone's waist under their shirt before they do it. But in this case, I was extremely slow, and she was engaging with me the entire time, laughing, cuddling with me, and even playfully fighting me for the game that we were playing. Again, the quote that she said, he disguised it with a simple, "Are you ticklish?" I coughed out a no. She's implying that it's with malicious intent, and that she coughed out a no would also imply that I should be able to tell that she was uncomfortable with it.
The night lasted until 6 a.m. I was still drunk, either from alcohol or tiredness. I went to leave, and the older guy decided to leave with me. We walked to the elevators, where I didn't get on. He then pretended that the elevator was broken, and that he couldn't leave, telling me to get in the elevator to prove it was broken. And then after a few minutes, he ended the night with a "guess I'm going now," leaving with a wounded puppy look. He proceeded to Instagram message me for a bit after that, simple flirting or asking about the next convention I was going to.
I also just want to point out that her best friend was here during this whole process, then afterwards did leave. And I think it is important to note that she made the choice to stay behind for many hours more. And as I mentioned before, she did get up, say goodbye to them, and came back. We were even talking about staying up to wait until 11 a.m., which was the checkout time of the hotel. Since it was the final day, we were like, oh, I don't know if we want to go to sleep for a few hours, might as well just stay up. But that's not what ended up happening. And it's at this time that Katie says that, this is a quote, "I went to leave, and the older guy then decided to leave too." This is phrased in a way that makes me look kind of creepy, to be honest. She's basically saying she left, so I decided to leave too, which is not the case. What actually happened is Dream had decided he was too tired and was going to bed. So the night was over and we all left. She then goes on to tell a story about the elevator and how I joked about it being broken to try and get her to go in with me. So Katie actually had her own hotel room on the same floor as Dream. So she actually didn't have to take the elevator. She walked me to the elevator when she didn't have to and said goodnight to me.
Huh. So she didn't even need to use the elevator, and yet she walked back this scary older man back and wished him a good night. Bit of a far cry from your sob story about being followed and harassed, isn't it?
Which was nice of her. I did joke with her about coming in the elevator by pretending that it was broken. I went into the elevator, the doors closed, and I would press the doors open button to make it open again. I did this a few times, and she didn't go along with it, which I respectfully took, obviously, and ended up just going down to my room. So yeah, she didn't have to take the elevator, yet she chose to walk with me to the elevator to say goodnight to me, which I think is interesting given how she's saying how she was so upset with it. After this, we texted for a bit, sometimes daily, sometimes we would take a few days break, even a few weeks at some point. And at some point after VidCon, we were actually both in London at the same time, and she let me know this through her DMs. Now, I will say she didn't come out outright and say, I'm in London, but she did say that she had gone to a place that was known to be a London thing. And I commented on that and said, and asked what she was doing in London. And just to clarify, we did not meet up whilst in London, nor make plans to do so. She was always extremely friendly to me. I was friendly to her. And honestly, I was very shocked to hear her say the things that she did say during her stream. After VidCon had finished and we were messaging, that I found out her age. And since then, I never pursued anything going forward. And I essentially stopped messaging her. Her last message to me was August 1st, 2023, and I haven't replied to her since then. After I watched her stream, I was pretty confused. I didn't understand how her account of the story had been so different from what actually happened.
You know, I'm not really sure why she'd lie so hard either. There were literally 8 people at the party who could disprove what she was saying. She intentionally made not only George, but the rest of the people there look more malicious than they actually were. When you have accusations, you need to deliver them responsibly. You cannot lie, you cannot embellish, you cannot leave ambiguity, without people having a completely legitimate reason to discredit your entire story. So sorry if she's crying right now and feels uncomfortable right now, but that's not how consent works. There's no takesy backsies with consent. Every legal jurisdiction in America would determine that not only was she of age, but they were both drunk. She enthusiastically came back to him multiple times, and it never got beyond cuddling. No matter how you look at this, there is no crime. He is completely in the right, and anyone saying otherwise is willfully ignorant or just straight up uninformed.
I blame myself for all the things I could have done. I really did. I convinced myself I was lucky. I let half a year pass, wondering why it's now that I still cry myself to sleep imagining it. Why it's now that no matter how many times I wash, I still feel dirty. Why is it that to him I'm a faint memory, but he haunts mine? It's not fair. I was kind in this world and it was not fair to me. I stay up cursing it. Power. He has so much more than me. Protection. It's unfair. It's unfair he can do that, and it's unsafe for me to talk about it. Why, in order to have a peace of mind, do I have to threaten all I've worked for?
Nothing would be at stake if you came out with the truth. Instead, you lied about events and demonized innocent people. Again, zero sympathies. This whole speech of hers reads like a poem, which adds to the level of unseriousness she tackles this with, in my opinion.
A lot of the facts that she said just didn't happen at all, or were phrased in ways that just make me look as bad as possible. Saying things like, I insisted on her playing drinking games, or that she was frozen in place, or that she was scared. She was having fun, she was enjoying herself, she was showing this with her body language, with the way that she smiled, the way that she laughed, and just her overall general demeanor. Now, one thing that I think is very important to differentiate here is that I do believe that she regrets being affectionate with me, and that really does make me feel terrible. I never want to make anyone feel uncomfortable.
This has been an issue with the Me Too movement for a while now, and I know, it's like beating a dead horse at this point, but women who are like this really harm those who actually get it when the real issue is that they regret the situation retrospectively and pretend that it was never okay, which just isn't how it works.
I think it seems very likely that after 8 months of you being around friends that hate me and my friends and constantly talking badly about us, publicly as well, and privately. I don't know what they say privately, but can't be any better than what they say publicly. Obviously, that is going to affect the way that you view the experience. And it's going to make you look at it differently. You're going to second guess it. You're going to be thinking about it. And clearly, it changed the way that she thought about it. And I just think it's completely unfair to judge me and my actions based on how you feel about it now, 8 months later, versus how you felt at the time. Because at the time, you were not uncomfortable with it. And I know I'm repeating myself a million times, but I have to. You were smiling, happy, laughing, playing along with it, everything. And that's all I really have to say on the matter. Still keep supporting victims.
Well, that was a pretty crazy video. Very rarely does a situation occur where it's just so clearly black and white. A liar, emotionally manipulative bitch on one side, and a pretty innocent dude who just wanted to cuddle on the other. If you want to see more of my coverage of various dramas in a non-biased fashion like this, make sure to subscribe and like the video. It helps out a lot, truly, and I'm not even kidding about that. Otherwise, thank you for watching.